took my troubles down to you know that gypsy with the gold tattoo. She's got a bad down a bed for the wine. 7 little bottles of love potion number 9. I told her that I was a flop with chicks. I've been this way since 1956. She looked at my palm and she made a right sign. She said, what you need is
love potion number 9. Hey everybody, how you doing? For those of you new to the channel, my name is Queer. My nom de plume is the unemployable counselor. It's Saturday night. I thought that was a great way to start because the little video I want to do tonight is about red flags in relationships. Now, I'm not talking about long-term relationships. That's a whole other bag, baby. What I'm talking about is dating in your 40s. Even over 45, but I'm not going to push it more than that. Right? We all remember what it was like dating as teenagers. Some of us were successful. Some of us really were not. But the whole premise of it all is about connection, right? Even if our motivations may have changed, or maybe they haven't, who knows? What I'm saying is that there's some red flags, and I mean like bulls charging kind of red flags, that you really should look at before you go further, or if you have some reservations or doubts. First off, that's perfectly normal. But if it's like, okay, that's a different story. It's one thing to be like, I don't like that he snores, or I don't like that she scratches her toenails against my legs. The other thing to be like, will she try to poison my food and eventually kill me, type of thing. Okay? Yeah, that actually happens. Even Mando just growled. I don't know if you heard that, but he's not a fan of that either. So what I'm saying is this. There's a couple red flags, and I'll be honest with you. As a person who's been in all kinds of relationships, right? It's worth noting that based off my X number of years of just even hearing stories, being a part of stories, always wondering why I seem to get myself in the most bizarre situations. Curiosity has a lot to do with it, and just curiosity. Just because I like to know how things work, and sometimes when I want to know how something happens, like, okay, how does something like this occur? Then I usually get into trouble. That's just the way, or it's usually like turns into an 80s bad movie. I don't know, but I will say, all things considered, people go when they want to date. They have the purest. A lot of them have the purest of intentions. Some of them like to hunt wedding rings. Some of them like to just be as casual as it can be, right? Others are looking for relationships. Some want to date. Others are serious, long-term companionship. I'm not begrudging or making fun of anyone in those categories. I'm not, because we're all, depending where we are as people, and that matters too. I know I've jumped into relationships that were too soon, and people ended up getting hurt, and feelings were hurt, and that's regrettable, because you never want to hurt somebody unintentionally, and or trying to force yourself into a situation that you know is not going to work, but you do it anyway. And then, you know, when it comes time to pull that pin, it's not just you feeling the shrapnel from that grenade blowing, right? Like it can have far-reaching impacts. That's why it's so darn important in the early part of a relationship that if there's stuff coming up where it's like, okay, I don't know, you have to ask yourself, is it going to get better? Do you see what's happening in that moment? If you're eating across from the person who you're in a relationship with, you're probably, you know, you're intimate, whatever the case may be, but there's starting to be like maybe some feelings there, and then you hear them eat, and you start like, it's like someone like, it's like two loggers cutting down a mighty pine. You can hear it, and it's just like, now it's just like, oh, you know, it seems kind of shallow, whatever. but those little things matter, right? A dam doesn't break because a giant hole occurs or a big chunk falls out of it. It occurs because something small happens. Maybe it's not even noticeable. It's minor enough that it starts to increase. And then there's more pressure. And then the crack starts to spread. And there you go. That's how those things happen. So I'm not saying, he's got one eye, one color or another. It's not superficial. It's not about that. It's about every time I come home, they're just sitting on the couch and I say, hey, we've been together 6 months, or maybe we're living together. How about, you make supper tomorrow night? Oh, and then they don't. Or it's like, listen, all the week I've been doing laundry all week, you can put a load in, and they don't. There's things like that where it's like, well, maybe they forgot, or maybe you're making excuses. But what I'm talking about even predates that stuff. Okay? If you meet someone for like a date, a coffee, and if it's under 2 hours, I think is a good time. Because look, 2 hours to me says, okay, I'm engaged enough that I want to know more, and I'm kind of curious to see, and maybe the Habs game doesn't start till 5 and it's 2. Okay? Or she could be thinking, I got nothing else better to do today. I'll see how this goes. Right? Whatever. But there's not that initial, ooh, right? Maybe there might be like, yeah, let's grab a coffee. Whatever. You do that. Now, I'm looking at it purely from a middle-aged man's perspective who's literally had a few first dates in his life, had some good ones, had some bad ones. Okay? And this is what I look and think, okay, I could have been a little wiser here, and this is why I think that. 90 minutes, 2 hours tops, 90 minutes, but anything under 2 hours is a good time. And I don't mean, it's a good time. I mean, like, that's a good time where you get an idea. Let's say you're there talking and she doesn't ask you about you, or he doesn't. I'm talking from my perspective, so I might slip into that type of terminology. Please bear with me. So, right, those kind of things are just like, that's kind of weird, right? Or you get out to the car when it is done and you get a message from right away, do you like me? First off, I'm going to assume the person that you're dating is probably around the same age group as you, unless you're a billionaire, right? Or she has very low standards. So typically it's usually around the same age group. You kind of, people usually have kids, they got careers, they have a car. Like, there's things there that you don't have to worry about anymore, right? You don't have to worry about having kids anymore. You can retire, right? Right? Send the boys on vacation. However you want to class for that. That's what I think. And yeah, so it's things like that where it's like, okay, this is feeling kind of junior high-ish. Or people get excited. You know what? That's kind of cute. Yeah, you know what? Aha, it went good. Usually you'll laugh it off. Aha, it went good. So yeah, no, maybe next week we'll grab a coffee or in a few days, and later in the week or whatever. Okay. That sounds reasonable, I think. Because I've been in situations where I've jumped in way too fast and I regret those. I've had other situations where I didn't. I don't regret those because I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that hypothetically may have occurred. I'm not targeting anyone, man or woman, that may have had some sort of feelings towards me or whatever one time in their life. It's not about that. This is from a collection of divorced single people that have talked to me and said, hey man, this is a little weird, but I want you to hear about this. Okay. How often should you text? If we're going out, if we went out once and that's like the introductory meeting, right? That's like if you go to view a house. Please bear with me. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But let's say you check the front door, you check the back door. Okay, that one I threw in there because I thought it was funny. But what I'm thinking is this. You go through the introductory hi, you test the comfort levels. Hey, what's the vibe like? Are we feeling this? And they can be like, yeah, if you're kind of like, but I give it another shot. It wasn't terrible. She's not a bad person. I just wish she would ask me about me or something like that. if you're willing to go, and it's like, again, it kind of falls in the category of, well, why not? Right? Like, why not? Maybe I'm just missing something. You know, I might have a job, I might have things going, right? It's like, right. So how often you text between that initial meeting and the next stage of whatever the hell it is that you're on right now? Okay? How does that connect? What happens? How many times? Personally, for me, I think, look, if it's like a Sunday, right? You go have coffee, you know, maybe later in the week, I'll text you later in the week, or, you know, whatever. Then I can understand excitement level, oh, good night, or whatever. But if it's multiple times during the day, multiple times, and then by about, you know, and if you don't answer right away, and it gets to be about 3 or 4 messages deep, you'll start to get messages that say, they will say, hey, you mustn't be feeling this. You're not answering my messages. It's like, so I'm now on the clock because you want to talk. And that's fine. I'm not against that. But it's interesting that all of a sudden it's going to be like, no. Well, what happens? Or it's like, most people have kids. Maybe it's something like, well, you know what? I'm going to let you spend time with your kids this week, but on the weekend, you're okay? There's flirting, there's like being funny, but it's repetitive. And then it's things like, well, I don't even know where, you haven't even told me where you live. Like, do you see where this is escalating? Okay, I think you were joking about letting me see my kids. Now you want to know what my address is. You know what that means? That means at 3 a.m, someone's going to show up to your door with a bun cake. Okay? It's going to be like, hey, oh, are you up? Are you up? I made some mac and cheese. Okay? The unexpected drive-bys and the unexpected visits are not cool. Not cool. Okay? If you're dating a period of time, you've kind of earned the right to be like, you know what, I'm going to pop by the old lady's house, or, sorry, I apologize for using that term. I like Sons of Anarchy, right? So it's like, I'm going to swing by my gal's house and we'll, maybe watch a movie, whatever, right? That could be, and she'll be like, oh, because you're kind of half expected, right? If you're in that kind of relationship. But when it's early on like that, and maybe it was innocuous, maybe it was innocent, well, I don't think so. In my mind, that's, if you want to know more about me, then ask. But it turns into those types of situations, right? So we have the whole first time is about themselves. They need the instant gratification of, do you like me? And then if you don't respond to their message in a timely fashion, they start laying the guilt on you like a Catholic mother, right? Okay? Those sorts of things is what contributes to, it's like, and that's what makes men and women, I'm just talking from a male perspective, mind you, but male and females get where it's like, I don't want to be in that situation, because not only is it now extremely awkward, but what happens when I'm like, you know what, I don't think this is going to be pursued any further on this end. That's when it gets allowed me to continue. So from what I've heard from understand, like I said, this is a collection of stories. Think of this as an anthology of bad first date stories. I don't know if anthology is the right word. I'm thinking more like a creep show-esque kind of vibe, to be honest with you. Okay, so we have that. And then it turns into, well, you mustn't be into this. Like, no, I'm okay. I'm working. I told you all, right? If you explain yourself, it's even worse. And I'm going to explain why. Because then you're engaging in the idea that whatever it is they're doing is okay. And I'm not trying to be harsh or don't growl. You think the same way I do. It always gets like that when company's over. But no, because now all of a sudden it's like you're justifying. It's like, well, it can easily turn the cards. And I think it's a lot of codependency, a lot of manipulation. Those sorts of things go hand in hand. I believe there's a video somewhere on codependency. Oh yes, it's on the YouTube channel. Go check it out. Mando, I know. Okay, you start to get baked. That gets baked into the pie. So now all of a sudden it's like, well, no, and then you're on the defensive. And then if you say, look, man, this is how it is. Well, what are you talking about? Like, why don't you want this to work? Then it's like that's transforming from hey, man, let's grab a coffee, see where things go, to I've already ordered towels with our initials on it, you bastard. Okay? All right. I'm not going to keep going too long here because I think my phone's almost dead. But there's some other key components here. That happens. So then let's say it comes time to be about the time you guys are going on the date and this continues. It's the multiple text message, even during the night. It's things like, why aren't you answering me? Well, because you text me at 4 a.m. and I sleep. Right? I'm not nocturnal, despite popular belief. Right? Those sorts of factors can come into play. And then, so you say, look, this isn't going to work. You know what? There's a couple ways you can do this. There's a classic. You know what? It's me, right? The good guy always tries to take the bullet, and he shouldn't always do that because that doesn't help the other person out either. And I'm not saying be ignorant and hurt someone's feelings. I'm saying you can be honest and say, you know what? I feel this is smothering. And if they respond to you, you don't know what smothering is, call one of the local security firms because you're going to need some help, right? A little Play Misty for me if anyone's a fan of the Clint Eastwood 1971 classic. Ray was a radio disc jockey, oddly enough. But items like that where it gets to be like, okay now. We can't do this if you're not upfront to be like, oh, look, it's me. I can change you because people will slip into that savior mode. And it goes, again, with codependency, manipulation, like all this stuff. It's threaded through the eye of a needle, man. It's like you're lacing that garment up, right? Zorro's cape was stitched with the codependency thread of manipulation. Yeah. I really have fun with this channel. Right? So no, but it's things like that. And again, in my experience, or in what I've heard talking to people, in hypotheticals, right, it progresses to, it gets kind of scary, where all of a sudden it's like, hey, look, I'm being honest with you here. I don't think this is going to work. I don't feel like this is the right kind of relationship for me. And there's it's like, what do you mean by that? It's like, look, I don't think this is meant to be as it is. So I'm sorry, but I'm bowing out. I'm exiting stage left, right? Which is probably right as you watch this, but you know what I'm saying. Those sorts of things where if you're upfront about it, and it sucks and it hurts, but there's a purity to that, and you're not leading somebody on, because that's the worst thing. And we've all been in situations where maybe we've led people on that we at the time didn't even realize it because we were so stuck on our own shit that we couldn't see what it was doing to anybody else. Like I said, we all have regrets. But situations like this, you can easily, I'm going to stop it today because I don't want to deal with this tomorrow and every day after that. And then if something actually big happens, or if I decide I'm just going to see and we'll play this out in a month from now, you're going to be fighting this person off with like a broomstick and a garbage can lid. Like, you have to take into account those factors. Okay? You have to be upfront. As much as it sucks. And there'll be a part 2 because I'm pretty sure my phone's going to die right away. I've been running almost 20 minutes. But maybe I'll put part 2 up later tonight. Who knows? All right. Thank you for watching. We talked right up until the part where it's like, there's just some little things. And I'm rambling tonight. It's a Saturday. The Canadians won 2 in a row. One was a shutout. And I was thinking today about being my age and dating is a lot more difficult than people think. Everything's online. It's a weird kind of world, right? Especially when, like, for me, it was over a decade, right? That I was signed exclusively. But anyways, you got to watch out for things like that because people can become attached way too fast, and that's worse than people being super cold. Because at least super cold, you can kind of take the hint. But if you try to be a nice guy about it, that doesn't always work. And eventually you're going to have to stop and say, you know what, this isn't going to work. And then things could possibly happen, like they start messaging you on any way they can. right? Or you might get text messages from people you don't know. Or people's, oh yeah, I'm a friend of Ted's, so I'm calling to say, you should call Ted. And you're like, who the hell are you? Who is this person? Okay? Like, these things are not, if it ends there, be glad it ends there. Because people have been in situations where it hasn't ended there and it's turned really awful and terrible and bad. I did a total false finish there. I said I was going to end it, and then I got into what I was going to talk about. But I thought, you guys know the drill. And I'm sure no one's watching this far anyway. But I find that, especially, and it doesn't matter if it's male or female, because people have an odd perception of themselves sometimes. And sometimes they think what they want is what everybody wants, and what they want is best for everybody. And then it's like, no, man, I have the right to say no. I don't want to do this, so we're not doing it. Right? We all have that right. Or it's like, you might be, I don't know, you're not quite for me. Right? Because if I'm having those thoughts, again, is everything I'm describing, will that get better over time? Or will it get worse? And so I'm going to come home and find your pet on the stove, a la Fatal Attraction? Yeah, I said that, right? What I'm saying is this: everybody has the potential to be, everyone should want to do their best in a relationship, and everyone has the potential to not do sometimes. And sometimes we just want something so bad, it doesn't matter who or what it's with. I think just to feel something, just to get that connection, I don't know. Above my pay grade with that. But I think all of us need to look at what we actually want versus what we actually need. Because, I mean, is it worth having a partner if all of a sudden you stop being an individual? Because a lot of times people will think that's what a relationship is. And I was in relationships too where it's like I got so intertwined, and you can't have that. You got to be present and they got to be present. You have to be two separate people. It's like one's on each side of the board holding it up, right? One might drink Dr. Pepper, the other thinks it's gross. People are different. That's okay. And it's through those differences we find connection a lot of times. And we don't need to just stomp all over everything just because it's not how I want it to be. Or what, you don't like that I texted you 15 times in the last 5 hours? With stuff, with things like a picture of a pie or not even that, but it's like, hey, what you doing? I'm like, I met you yesterday. My postman, while he's on strike. I guess the guy who when I go to get gas, I've seen that guy more than I've seen you. He's not texting me saying, hey, I didn't see it today. Are you getting petroleum from someone else? Right? Anyways. If I had to sum this up in a nutshell, it would be ramblings of an unemployable counselor. But I'll do a more formalized thing a little later, maybe. I don't know. But I think that if we look at it in those aspects and those angles, we can kind of see where, we can see just how things can start small, can end up really big before we know it. And if people don't know, if people have just focus on their own intentions, not what other people want or need, then you're gonna get situations like I've described here, because it's not about you, it's about that person and their view of what this relationship is, even though it's not. See what I mean? Codependency. I'm not talking about mental health. This isn't one of those, this guy says people are crazy. This isn't that at all. Because both men, women, or however people identify, they can easily, it can impact anyone. But just what do you want out of this? What do you want? What do you need? Right? If you're at that stage where you need someone to be hanging around you, 100 times a day, okay. The reason why I keep going back to codependency is self-esteem is a big part of that. Manipulation is a big part of that. So you find yourself with a partner that either, like, for you to be as valued as you see yourself to be valued, they need to need you all the time. That's not about the other person at all, is it? That's about them. And I'm not saying, I'm so stable. I'm not, man. People get in relationships, they don't work. Sometimes things just don't work. Even though come on, Mando. Mando knows. Mando. Enough. So that's kind of where we're at with that. But I mean, like, I think that, honesty goes a long way. And even if they get mad at you or they don't like it or whatever the case may be, that's okay too. But at least you're honest with them, and that's something that they'll come back and say, you know what? At least he was honest. So just remember that. Even though as much as it might suck right now, soul coming home and finding your dog or rabbit cooking on the stove, right? Because you didn't answer a text message in 15 minutes, right? Or you're 10 minutes late to a second date or whatever the case may be, right? Think about those kind of things, I guess. While we're talking, we should get more of the community stuff going. This is going to be a YouTube exclusive. And I'm hoping as we get more followers, we'll be able to have interactive things. I think that's going to be pretty cool. It seems maybe kind of ridiculous, but, where else can you go on a Saturday night and hear a middle-aged guy talk about red flags on a first date? There you go. All right. Take care of yourself. Be kind to each other, man. We're all in this together. Okay? I really like, instead of holding people down, let's try to lift each other up. How about that? All right. Take care. For me, Mando, the Rooster's getting some mentions. If we hit 150 followers, I'll tell you all about them. It's a good story. All right. Take care. Have a good Saturday night.